Hey everyone, I'm Elise North. I am the Program and Ministry Coordinator at Faith Presbyterian Church in Watkinsville, Georgia, and I'm here today to talk to you about PCA General Assembly. The 48th General Assembly of the PCA is next week in St. Louis, Missouri. But for many members, the question is, what is it and why does it matter? Presbyterian church government provides for multiple levels of oversight and accountability, which help protect its people, leaders, and sound doctrine. Side note, the U.S. government is based on the same model. The local session reports to the presbytery. Presbytery reports to the General Assembly. As such, General Assembly is the highest court of the denomination, meaning that GA has jurisdiction over the ministers and churches of the denomination. GA determines and interprets the standards by which the denomination operates. In political terms, it's a little like Congress and the Supreme Court all in one. In a more practical sense, General Assembly refers to the annual meeting of representative elders and churches of the denomination. It's a type of family reunion as elders from around the denomination build relationships through assembly work and social events. It rotates to various locations throughout the U.S., this year in St. Louis. In addition to the main assembly, GA consists of seminars, committee meetings, worship services, fellowship time, and an extensive exhibit hall. Side note, our very own Pastor Nathan is leading 2 seminars this year at GA. The assembly consists of teaching elders and ruling elders within the denomination. Teaching elders are paid pastors like Pastor Nathan or Pastor Stephen, while ruling elders are the rest of the session like Bill Booth or Ed Lane or Jamie Spikel. All teaching elders in good standing may attend General Assembly. Each church is also allowed to send 2 ruling elders in addition to their teaching elders. You can only vote in General Assembly matters if you have registered as a teaching elder or ruling elder. However, lots of people visit GA, including family members, friends of commissioners, vendors, and representatives of various church and parachurch ministries. Because the PCA is large, it gives a great deal of its business and duties to various committees and commissions. Committees are ones that study and then give a report and let the body act, and commissions are ones that just act on behalf of the body. These groups fall into a few categories. First, we have permanent committees and agencies. This is going to be things like MTW, Mission to North America, RUF, RBI, PCA Foundation, etc. It's also going to be groups like the Board of Covenant College or Covenant Seminary. It also includes the Standing Judicial Commission.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
The SJC is a fully recognized commission, and they deal with any church discipline cases that get rolled up to General Assembly. The SJC makes all of their decisions on their own without input from General Assembly, and the only way that something can get overturned is if there is sufficient minority to bring a minority report to the General Assembly floor, which, at the time of this video, has never happened. Permanent committees can also be assigned overtures from the lower courts if the subject matter of the overture pertains to their function. You can see here that overture number 4 by the Savannah River has been assigned to the SJC. To aid in oversight of the permanent committees, there are special committees. So first is the nominating committee. The nominating committee reviews nominations of people to serve on these committees and makes recommendations on who they think would be best qualified. Each permanent committee also has a committee of commissioners. Presbyteries send an elder delegate to serve on one of these committees. This committee reviews the minutes of the meetings of the permanent committee to which they're assigned and any recommendations that they're making to GA, and occasionally this committee will revise a recommendation or recommend against their motions. Also, a special committee called Review of Presbytery Records. This committee reads and reviews the minutes of presbyteries, ensuring they've followed both form and standards in their proceedings. Okay, but why does this matter? Why are we talking about these committees? Because that means that permanent committees, boards, and the Standing Judicial Commission conduct a great deal of the work of the Assembly and the PCA. So folks attending General Assembly often have less input than other similar denominations like the ARP or the OPC. In other words, most of the work of General Assembly is first done in committees and then approved by the full Assembly. An important part of General Assembly's work each year is responding to overtures. Overtures are made by the PCA's 88 presbyteries. To see which overtures end up at General Assembly and how, and what General Assembly overtures there are this year, check out the link in the video description. There are 47 overtures that will be debated this year at General Assembly, some more vigorously than others.
7 overtures relate to sexuality and identity. Now, most of these have to do with the Greg Johnson case and whether or not his views and teachings on human sexuality are out of accord with PCA standards. So it also deals with language of gay Christianity or side B, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. 6 overtures relate to study committees. So these are presbyteries that are calling for committees to be formed to study different things. But because the study committee on domestic abuse and sexual assault that was appointed in 2019, they are expected to ask for an additional year to complete their work. So only one of these study committees could be appointed without a supermajority vote. 22 overtures deal with the Book of Church Order. The first 9 deal with form of government. An interesting one here is Overture 15, which is asking for digital communication for vote coordination to be prohibited. This directly has to do with the national partnership and how they have organized in the last few years to talk digitally during General Assembly so that they can coordinate who and what they're voting for. So that one will be interesting to watch. 13 overtures have to do with the BCO rules of discipline. So this has to do with any changes they want to make in regards to church discipline.
There are also 12 overtures that don't really fit in any of those categories, and you can read about those in the link in the video description. There's a pretty large division right now in the PCA. Call it what you will, left versus right, liberal versus conservative. There's a great article by R. Scott Clark that actually talks about how the paradigm is really more confessional versus non-confessional. But again, no matter what you call it, there is a division.
On the left, you have the fellowship and the national partnership crowd. So Mike Kanjan is the author and distributor of this listserv of emails. The subject line is always updates and encouragement. I've labeled it the fellowship because that's what they call their gathering at General Assembly, but they don't really have a name. The national partnership is, in their own words, quote, their political arm of sorts. The national partnership is a bit of a mystery to those outside of it because they keep their dealings extremely confidential. That's caused a good bit of criticism for the organization, but they defend it by saying that they do so in order to not be misrepresented at large on the internet, which we know often happens in today's world. So the national partnership is a quote unquote secret society within the PCA that mobilizes particularly during General Assembly to organize votes for overtures and nominations for people and causes that align with their worldview. Side note, their favorite word is beautiful, so just listen out for that buzzword. This is going to be folks like Tim Keller, Scott Sauls, Duke Kwon, Ray Cortez, Erwin Ince, Doug Servin, Kevin Twitt, Mike Kanjan, James Kessler, etc. On the right, you have the Gospel Reformation Network and other groups like Firm Foundation Partnership, more in the PCA, etc. Media outlets like the Aquila Report and Presbycast are going to have more of this conservative bias. So this is going to be folks like Kevin DeYoung, John Payne, Ligon Duncan, Todd Pruitt, etc. So where does faith land on this scale? Well, as a whole, we're just to the right of the road. However, both of our teaching elders and our ruling elders are very diverse on this spectrum. So it's definitely worth talking to each of them individually on where they stand on any of these issues.
Okay, but by definition of being part of the PCA, aren't we all pretty conservative? What are we talking about when we talk about liberal versus conservative, right versus left?
Things on this spectrum are going to be issues such as views on creation, women in leadership, worship styles, diversity and critical race theory, social justice, cultural engagement, good faith subscription, and finally, side B, homosexuality.
Ding, ding, ding. That's it, everybody. There are many things that are going to be discussed at GA this year, but the one that's going to take precedence is the question of what is the PCA going to do with the influence of side B or gay Christianity, this movement within its ranks.
In April, James Kessler, founder of the National Partnership, posted an article called "The PCA Worth Having." This, of course, triggered a response, some of praise and some of criticism. Then last week, anonymous letter was published on the website of Faithful PCA called Looking Forward Together. This spawned 1,000 responses. It has been signed by over 700 PCA teaching and ruling elders in agreement with its sentiments. But there's also been a lot of frustrations from the conservative side, citing that they feel misrepresented and dismissed by the letter. Bottom line, know that this stuff is being hotly debated, anonymously or not, and it will determine the future of our denomination. Some churches have already left the PCA after the 2019 General Assembly and formed a new denomination. Be informed. Know what's going on. Know what the issues are, where our church specifically stands on these issues. Check out the links and resources given here in this video. Participate. Talk to your representatives who are attending General Assembly. For faith, that's Pastor Stephen and Pastor Nathan. Print the overtures and read through them. Watch the proceedings on the General Assembly website. Lastly, and most importantly, pray. Ask God for wisdom, for truth to prevail. Ask God to work through these men as they tackle these really difficult issues. So just ask him to work mightily at General Assembly next week.
Remember that God is in control. As my husband often says, I don't know what heaven will look like, but it won't be a PCA church. And that is so true. God is greater and mightier than any one denomination. But his earthly church does matter, and these issues are important. If you have any other questions, make sure you check out all the resources and links in the video notes, and feel free to reach out to me or Pastor Nathan or Pastor Stephen with any other questions. Bye!